Hi, Chris. Really fun, really excited to speak with you today. I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you. And what did you say? It's been a real delight. It's been a real delight to work with you the last few months and to build this partnership between Ladle and Caribbean Pot. I think one of the things that came across to me in our conversation is, we both have kind of a similar perspectives on what we are doing and why we are building what we are building, right? Here I am, I'm a mom, right? I'm building Ladle because I have a son who has a lot of food allergies. And I realized that, hey, I want to solve this for myself. And I want to solve this for others. I want to help people basically cook more what they want to eat, what they love to eat based on their preferences. Uh, doesn't matter, if you're an expert or you're a novice. Doesn't matter if you are cooking for specific preferences because that's what you want to do, because you want to be healthy or you want to look good, or because you're choosing to eat differently, or you have allergies, right? So I'm trying to build something that comes out of my challenges, my pain points, but making that possible. But again, coming from that perspective of being a mom, right? And you are coming into this as a dad, right? We talked about the fact about you and what inspired you to start Caribbean Pot. And you shared with me that, you wanted, we're both, by the way, we're both immigrants, right? Me to the US, you to Canada. And, you shared with me the fact that as a father, coming here to Canada, you wanted to actually bring Caribbean food to your daughters. You wanted to teach them, how to cook. And I love that story that you shared with me. So let's get started with talking about a little bit about you, right? A little about you, a little about Chris De La Rosa, and what inspired you to start Caribbean Pot.
Such a pleasure to be here, Sumati. One of the things you mentioned there is pain points, and in your case, it was addressing the allergies that your son has in regards to food he eats and everything else. With me, the CaribbeanPot.com and myself, it came about, well, most of the website came about because I wanted to pass on my culinary heritage to my daughters. The thing with older cultures, and you would notice we spoke about being immigrants, um, most of our recipes and everything else, like with so much of our history, has been passed on verbally, and I wanted it written in a format that they could easily replicate wherever they ended up in university or college or wherever they went. As an immigrant, one of the things I remember from my early days in Canada is that disconnect or that loneliness and everything else. But when me and my family got together, my aunt, my cousins, and we cooked, it brought such a peace, such joy, such a comfort. So I wanted that comfort for my daughters, and something diary like, very easy to read, very easy to follow along. And that grew into something that addressed the same pain points for many others who want to pass on their culinary heritage to their offspring, or maybe someone who married into the culture, or maybe someone just interested in cooking the same ingredients you would get in a regular grocery store, but a different way. And that is what CaribbeanPot.com has become for me. And I've been doing that since 2009 with what I believe is great success.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you've been doing this since 2009. That's 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 dedication, Chris. That's 16 years. I don't know if I've done if I've done, being that dedicated. I mean, apart from family, of course, but being that dedicated to something, that's some dedication, right? And well, good for you. I really, really appreciate you sharing that with me. Well, today Caribbean Pot has grown, right? You have been able to successfully do that for your daughters, do that for other people. And now I know that you are trying to build Caribbean Pot to be able to also reach people, who want to be influenced by Caribbean food. One of the things we as immigrants bring is our food where we are. And there's this big, of course, everywhere, especially in the Western world, embrace of different cuisines, right? People are used to eating different cuisines. They want to be able to cook different cuisines. And I know Caribbean food is very popular. Um, so what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, today, Chris De La Rosa, today versus 2009, right? Very different. You're today a very popular creator, really popular creator of Caribbean food, and you've got quite a following, right? You've got over 1 million subscribers on YouTube, and I see you everywhere, on Instagram. And you're there every day, right? You're cooking up something special every day. So what is it? What is it that inspires you?
To this day, my daughters still live with me, my little guy. I have to say them, but also I have to say my belly because I love to eat as well too, and I love to eat the stuff that brings comfort to me. I've been away from the Caribbean for 30 something years, and I still consider myself from there and I miss there. So the inspiration comes from within as well. Then you look at the emails and the direct messages and everything else that I get from people who are using my recipes
Mm,
and how it's changing their lives as
yeah.
well. So I don't have to look too far for inspiration, to be honest with you.
Oh, wow. So first, your children, right? The fact that you're feeding them stuff that that you enjoy, right? It's your basically love and what you consider is wonderful and flavorful and healthy, right? You're able to provide that. So that's one that makes a lot of sense. But what I'm hearing from you is that you're really inspired by actually getting feedback from people, right? Saying, "Hey, Chris, really enjoyed cooking XYZ, this recipe. I know you did a cooking class for us with your curry shrimp. So it's really getting inspiration from how you are impacting other people's lives. It is actually the whole community aspect, as much as we believe it or not, that whole community aspect is a real driver, isn't it? It's a really makes your heart warm, makes you like, oh, actually, I am really helping somebody, right? I
Yeah, two things I wanted to mention there. First of all, how difficult was it to say curry shrimp versus shrimp curry? Because I know you really wanted to say shrimp curry.
I did.
And secondly, I have been fortunate to start something as a hobby, as a means of documenting recipes for my daughters. Something I love, the food, and my daughters, and well, my son now, into a business. So I love what I do. So I win any way you look at it. I win.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think you're very fortunate. And I think the fact that you can take what you're passionate about and make that your life purpose, um, it's truly amazing. I mean, I don't think a lot of people have that ability. People may want to, but either they don't know how to do it or it doesn't pay them enough, or there are lots of barriers to, right? I mean, and I think that's where for me it took me a number of years to come to this point to say, hey, this is what I want to do, right? Not because I have to do it, uh, but this is something I want to do because this is what I'm passionate about, right? For me, making the shift from working for big tech companies in corporate America, saying I'm going to build a company, what is really inspiring is to talk to somebody like you who's like, hey, this is what I'm passionate about. This is how I take care of my family. This is also, what my purpose in the world is, and I'm going to pursue that.
Yeah.
So kudos to you. Kudos to you to
One of
be
the
able
things
to.
I've got to mention to whoever's watching this or listening to this is that you can have all the passion in the world, but without hard work and dedication, you won't get very far. I mean to say, with social media, if it's social media that you're doing, luck plays a huge part as well because sometimes you're just lucky and a video goes viral and then you make X amount of dollars from it and you help to create that fan base. But at the end of the day, if I don't wake up every morning and put 100% effort into it, because there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. People, they may think all you do is you post recipes, but there's so much more to it than just posting recipes. Something as simple as knowing your audience and building that community around that topic, whatever it is, people don't realize how much work and effort goes just into that minute little part of the big picture.
Yeah, yeah, hard work and dedication. You're right. I mean, passion by itself is passion alone, right? How to harness the passion and create something with it that is both sustainable, both makes impact, but also is able to put food on your table, right? I mean, that I truly believe. And, the fact that you've been doing it for as long as you've been doing it, Chris, I mean, you definitely have persistence, right? And I think this is a really important thing to put out there in general, right? That, just like you are seeing this with Caribbean Pot, I will be honest, I hadn't realized how much work it is to build a startup.
Yeah, yeah, I
And,
can imagine.
it's like you try and you try and you try, and, or, if you start doing something, you got to keep doing it again and again and again until you get to the point where it starts working.
Not just a startup, you're dealing with AI, with technology that's moving fast, like so, it's like laser fast. So
Yeah.
you always got to be a step ahead, man. I don't want to be in your shoes right now.
Well, let me ask you this. This is exactly the segue I was looking for, right? So,
Mhm.
you've been building this since 2009, right? And I know, I mean, you've embraced the digital medium, right? I mean, you've got a website and, you're embracing social media and stuff like that. Um, but what I want to really understand a little bit more is, how do you see technology helping you, right? And specifically think about the shift we've had to AI, right? In the last couple of years, we've had this major shift in AI. I'm sure it's impacting your business and how do you do things. So tell us a little bit more about how do you see technology and AI both helping you and impacting your business?
Wow, interesting question. A year ago, I would not have given much thought to it. And then when AI became somewhat mainstream, there was a fear, and it is that fear that I embraced because back in 2009 there was no one of Caribbean heritage even thinking about putting up content on YouTube or creating a website dedicated to our
Yeah.
food and documenting it in the way I did. So with AI and the ability to work with a company like yours, like Ladle, it positions me in the future as well, not just for what I'm doing, but you have to remember, Sumati, is that I represent an entire culture, millions and millions of people of the
Yeah.
Caribbean heritage. So when I can put, mommy and daddy always tell us put our best foot forward. Whatever we do, we have to give our best. And I think by embracing AI and technology, it positions me and my culture at the forefront of things when it comes to a food perspective. So, in that sense, what it also allows me to do, and I spoke about community earlier and how much work goes into building that community. What it allows me to do too is you look at the Gen Zs and all the younger people, they've embraced AI. They've been using AI constantly for the past little while. And one of the things I learned is if you want to connect with people, you got to hang out where they hang out. You got to use the tools that they use. So in using Ladle with that sous chef, where the AI technology, it positions me in their space as well to further build what I'm building.
Yeah, that is actually great, Chris. And you'd have talked briefly about that before, right? Because here it is, you're teaching your daughters, you're teaching the younger generation, right? So that is the Gen Zs and the millennials, right? Teaching them how to cook and how to cook Caribbean food and also meeting them where they are, right? Because again, the younger generations, they want to cook more, right? They understand the fact that what they eat, to be honest, better than you and I do in some ways, they better understand that what they eat is the biggest contributor to their health, right? So they've already made that leap. We don't have to convince them of that. But within that context, both taking your culture, right? The fact that you want to bring Caribbean food to them, but also meeting them where they are, right? So somebody could really love Caribbean food and want that. But there could be other people who are like, hey, I want to understand Caribbean food more. I want to start learning about it and incorporating that in my diet, but I'm not quite ready to have, four Scotch bonnet peppers. I'm not saying that's a
Yeah.
recipe, right? That you do that, but I don't want to actually, or I need to learn how to incorporate that. There's fusion, and there's also people wanting to eat more Caribbean food and understanding it. And I think this is a fantastic opportunity for us, for you and for us to actually be able to go out, and not just in the US or in Canada, but around the world, to say, hey, we can help you take Chris De La Rosa's recipes and we can personalize that for your taste, right? So learn how to do that, learn how to make it. It's not that difficult, it's pretty easy. Chris is going to teach you step by step, and we've got the recipes and we've got this figured out, and you can choose. You get to be the driver to choose, how much heat do you want, and how much spice level do you want, and also then personalize it based on what's available to you in your locale, right? Because when we did the curry shrimp cooking class, you did actually a really fantastic job of telling people, right? Okay, well, if you don't have, what is it called, Scotch bonnet peppers, and
Yeah.
what did you say? There's another thing. What is it that Bunish? I'm sorry, I'm going to slaughter the name. There's a herb or something or a spice that you were talking
Yeah,
about that.
we like in East Indian cooking, you guys use coriander quite a bit. In England, they call it what's the word they use? They have a different word there for coriander. I know
Cilantro.
cilantro.
Yeah,
Cilantro, right? In the Caribbean, we have what's called shadow benny or culantro,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that sort of it makes its way into most of our dishes. So that, I guess, that is what you were referring to. And I'm glad
yeah.
you pointed out the cooking class we did, and how people were able to make changes on the go with that same curry
Mhm,
shrimp recipe. The thing with Caribbean pot, and this is where my limitations, uh, I had limitations, but now with working with Ladle, that same curry shrimp recipe that's on Ladle under my sort as a
mhm,
creator on there, it
mhm,
allows people to change it from, maybe a person don't like shrimp, but they love the recipe, but they want to add
mhm,
chicken instead. Or maybe they're
mhm,
vegan or vegetarian and they want to take that shrimp out, or they want to take that chicken out and they want to make it fully vegan. With that chatbot, we saw how easy it was to take
mhm,
my recipe and, you know, their own personal preference. They wanted it to be vegan and they added chickpea in there or potato or
mhm.
whatever it was. So, from a limitation standpoint as well, to working with Ladle and the AI driven sous chef, it allows for that sort of limitation to no longer be there.
Yeah, and see, that is the thing I love about AI. We truly now have the ability to create these personalized experiences, personalized for Chris, personalized for Simity, personalized for Sarah, whoever that may be, right? And also be able to then do that for different locales all over the world. So whatever is available there in terms of the ingredients, right? Because uh, what is available, people want to cook with that, and that doesn't mean that Caribbean food should just be available to people, in the Caribbean or in the U.S. or in America, but wherever they are. And we have the ability for Ladle and the Ladle sous chef to be able to say, hey, how about you do this, right? Or do this, or how would you like to do this? And both make suggestions, but also for people to be able to do that. Yeah. And by the way, I know you're thinking behind your head. It's like, I've talked to somebody so many times and I've asked her for the API because I want that to be, I want that to be on Caribbean Pod, and I want to be able to have people come to my website and personalize the recipes, up, down, sideways, and we're going to definitely make that possible for you very
You
soon.
know,
So
one of the things I really want to hit home in this conversation, Sumati, is that I don't want, when I started off, I wanted to demystify Caribbean food for a general audience, a global audience, but there's no mystery behind it. I shop in the same grocery stores that most people in North America, most people in Asia, most people, well, not so much Asia because there's so much of the vegetable markets and outdoor markets and night markets and everything else. But
yeah,
the point is, all I'm showing you is a different technique. That's all it is, a different technique, or using the same ingredients you would come across. Yes, there are times when there are some ingredients where it's not easily accessible. But again, we spoke about how you can personalize it according to your region and what's available to you. So it's just a different technique altogether of how to prepare meals, delicious and nutritious meals for your family.
yeah, yeah. And I think, Chris, the most important thing is having heart, right? and having something to start out with a baseline. Somebody like you comes with a lot of passion, right? You also have the recipes, and not just having the recipes, you've been cooking this forever, right? So you know what to do, what the flavor should be. And now when we are powering you with, like, Ladle and the Ladle sous chef, it's basically being able to take that knowledge that you have and having technology help you to say, hey, how do I help different people be able to cook what they want? And with where the technology is with AI and what we are building together, I really do believe the ability for us to have people all over the world be able to cook Caribbean food, whatever version is right for them, that is becoming more and more a reality.
Yeah,
And yeah, yeah,
I look at myself, little fella on the islands, 5, 6 years old or something, and watching
yeah,
old versions, because by the time it got to the Caribbean, it would have already been a year old or something.
yeah,
Episodes of Star Trek, and they had the tricorder, and what we're seeing now with that, with the Ladle, for example, on your phone, it's like a tricorder where all the information is there. It's just you have to assemble it. That's all you got to do. So we're living the future that I was, I'm blown away now when I look at things.
yeah, yeah. One of the interesting things is I was with a podcast recently, and the host was telling, he's like, Symphony, what you need to do. And I said, what? He says, you need to put in AR, and then it gets to become VR. People should be able to put, and have also the experience and, the whole experience and the smells and stuff. And maybe you can create the experience, like when people are following somebody like Chris cooking, right, on a cooking
Yeah.
class, they could also kind of have their home smell like Chris's kitchen and all that stuff. So they're interesting things to consider. But yeah, we'll talk more about that. I think we're going to be building a lot of these things together. So I'm really excited about having the opportunity to be able to do more of that. And with that, I actually just want to understand, typically I would ask people, where do you want to be in 5 years? But in today's world, 5 years is a long time, my friend, and you know that, right? So what I'd like to ask you is, where do you see yourself? Where do you see Caribbean Pot in 2 to 3 years from now?
You know, Usually when you ask people that, the answer is usually very selfish, very self-centered. Where do you see me? But I think in my case, because we spoke about why do I do it and the inspiration and everything else, I just want to see Caribbean food respected as you see, Italian and French and all those sort of cultural foods. And I see them as cultural foods, the sort of respect they get. I just want to see that happen. And this is why we're working with Ladle and AI. And from what I've done from 2009 until now, it's like stepping stones and carrying my culinary culture to those heights and that sort of the odd time we get a little mention on some Today Show or on CNN or something, and we're all jumping and we're all reposting and sharing with Auntie
Yeah.
and Granny and everybody else on the WhatsApp and everywhere else.
Mhm.
I don't want that to be the norm. I want the norm is when we don't see our names mentioned, when we don't see a Caribbean dish mentioned, when there's a top 10 or a top 100 or top 20, whatever the top is. Here's the thing, Sumati. When you look at TikTok, you look at Instagram, you look at Facebook Reel, you look at YouTube, for the most part, YouTube, the short form content, it's entertainment. I don't want my food to be
Mhm.
entertaining. I want my food to be
Yeah.
part of the entertainment. I want it to be cooked and enjoyed with your family. And do it as a family as well too, if that's the case. So where do I see my food? I just want my food to be respected. I just want my culture to be respected.
Wow. Yeah, no, absolutely. I know this is actually a really good thing that you were mentioning, because you're right. One of the things that we found in our research is people follow social media, right? They get inspired by creators on social media, but only 1% of their content they cook with, right? It gets to be entertainment, right? Oh, this chef, this creator is cooking XYZ. They like it, and they like it and they comment on it and stuff like that. But it's like that home remodeling show, right? You don't
Yeah.
really think that's something that you're going to be able to do. But that is the beauty of, what we're building with Ladle, is a step-by-step directions, and also being able to interact with people like yourself, right? So, okay, whether it's through cooking classes or it's guided navigation and other things, but really step by step, understanding, how to make this dish and being able to create that foolproof dish so you're not stuck with something that you're not going to be happy with. So yeah, I am really excited about that. And yeah, I really hope, I really think you're on the right road. I think, you are
Yeah,
definitely, yeah, you're definitely creating that for Caribbean
crossing
food.
borders with languages as well too. I think that would have been a hindrance back in 2009 as well too. So having the ability to have my recipes in different languages and connect with people from different communities as well is a huge reason why I'm working with you all as well too.
Oh, yeah. And actually, the beautiful thing is, Chris, exactly, right? I mean, a few years ago when I was at Amazon, by the way, I was with Alexa, right? And when we were trying to just think simple things like changing from American English to Canadian English was an endeavor that was, I mean, seriously, it was months. It was like 18 months or so, and we were still not getting it quite right. And today now, I mean, that's where you take the beauty of technology. And I don't say the technology is perfect in any way, and it's evolving. But today, with current AI technology, we do have the ability to be able to add a lot of languages. And currently, we are adding a lot of languages to have it possible for people not only to see recipes in their language, but also then have it personalized for their locales, right? So, you're cooking that curry shrimp. And by the way, I always have to think when I say curry shrimp because I'm so used to saying shrimp curry the other way. But when people are cooking that curry shrimp, being able to know, okay, what's available in my locale, right? Whether I'm in Sweden or I'm in Japan or I'm in Korea or whatever that may be, how do I do that? So yeah, absolutely. I think we take the benefits what technology allows us and
Yeah.
we take that with your beautiful content and your culture and be able to bring it to people all over the world. So this is really interesting for me because one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about um, is that what is it that we can do? And this is something for you, but also for other creators who might be listening to this podcast at some point. It's like, what is it that Ladle can do to help you accomplish your goals, right? Um, can you tell me a little bit more about that?
I'm glad you asked because you see all these platforms and these apps, they all want to be creator driven where have that content is king, they want that content and everything else, but they never ask us what we want in return. We want visibility, we want to know that people are using our recipes, we want to build that community around who we are, our personality, and our love for what we do. And embracing technology as with AI. The entire conversation here was about AI as well, and Ladle, because let's face it, that is the future. We are living the future right now, and having the ability to have our recipes to be able to be tailored according to one's likes and dislikes. No one else is giving us that from a content creator perspective to be able to see that being done in real time as well. Too, yeah, someone can go and grab a recipe even from CaribbeanPot.com, but you still got to translate it, or you still got to try and figure out if you wanted to make it vegan, will it work vegan? So we're taking away the guesswork from it by working with you all. I'm taking away that guesswork so whatever version of your recipe that person who's the end user is using it, it will still be part of the original Chris De La Rosa's recipe.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
that is important to me from a creator standpoint.
Correct. So if I'm hearing you correctly, that you want to make sure it is your recipe, you've got the attribution to that. I mean, the baseline recipe, right? But you also like the fact that that recipe can be transformed to suit different people's preferences and to suit different basic in different languages and be able to have that broader proliferation as long as it is also recognized as Chris's recipe, correct?
Very much so, because at the end of the day, you know, um, you look at someone writes a song and sings a song. No matter who sings it after, a lot of people refer back to the original singer, the
Mhm,
composer, whoever that person is.
mhm, mhm.
Food is art, and food is love, but food is also art as well too. When I present something, it's part of me, kind of thing, and I want to know that no matter where I work or which platform I work on, um, you can still see signs and traits of me and my culture represented in there.
Yeah, and we've talked about this, but I do also want to assure you that, your recipes that we use, not only are we giving you attribution, but also the way our business model is, and, to make sure that you get part of the profits and things like that of us using your recipes. So that's definitely something we're committed to and value. And also, I did want to take this opportunity to really thank you for your partnership so far. It's been a pleasure working with you so far, Chris, in the last few months, and I think you've been a really key part of us evolving the creative program at Ladle and growing that. And for people hearing there, you're also an advisor to Ladle now, and we really love your input and are committed to actually, taking your input as we build our creator program and bring other creators on board. I do think, importantly enough, technology and AI side, it's a lot about relationships, right? And the important thing is, as we are building with relationships with creators like yourself, it is really important to me that we keep in mind what's important to you, and we create a win-win with you, and it is a relationship we have for years, and we can both enjoy what we are building and help each other continuing to build and continuing to grow, Chris. So it's been yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, we started off the conversation with the sort of similarities on our journey as well to how everything came about, and that in itself made these calls and these meetings we have so much easier and fun as well too, because at the end of the day we know how we got here and we know why we're doing it and we know how
Yeah,
many people's lives we will be affecting when it's all said and done.
yeah. And I think that's the important thing to really keep in mind, right? Like, why are we doing it, right? uh, because I know sometimes you and I see eye to eye. Sometimes we see things differently, but of course, I mean, I'm running a tech company. You're a creator, and there are going to be similarities and there are going to be differences. But the important thing is, and it's a lot of hard work, as you said, right? There's a lot of grit involved. There's a lot of hard work involved. But I think as long as we keep, in mind what we are building for, right? That we are actually building this to both help people cook easily and share it with themselves, their families. And every now and then, an Insta post is okay.
Yeah.
People can share it that way too. But I know, as long as you keep in mind what we are doing and why we are doing it, yeah, I think
From a
I think we
creator standpoint, Sumati, it's been refreshing as well too, simply because I've worked with all the different platforms there are from on social media, that is, and you never feel as though you're heard. And by whether you agree with me and
Yeah.
what we say or not, the point is you listen to what I had to say. My contribution
Mm-hmm.
was important to you, and you showed that by listening to me and giving me feedback, not by just saying no and that was the end of it. There was feedback, there was dialogue. That is important from a creator standpoint as well, very much.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that, Chris. I think the important things, and I think that's been why we've continued to work together. Now we've been working together for over 6 months, right? Is you're always very good about giving your point of view, and we have these conversations, right, where I can tell you, hey, Chris, this is what I can do right now, or this is what we can do right now, or this doesn't fit into this, but maybe we have those conversations. And I think what you're talking about is the partnership, right?
Yeah.
The partnership and the communication. And fortunately, that's really important to me. It's really important to me to make sure that we are serving you and we're together building this. And I think as long as we keep an eye out on what we are doing and how we're serving the larger population and what we're building together and what helps us build a successful partnership together, uh, we're always going to keep doing that, and that I promise you, that is not going to change no matter what. Hey, Chris. It's been
Yeah.
a pleasure. It's been a pleasure, from San Francisco to Toronto, right? It's been a pleasure working with you the last several months, and it's really been fun chatting with you today. Thank you
Yeah,
so
you know,
much.
the thing, Sumati, you mentioned Toronto. I am 1 hour west of Toronto, and whenever anyone from Ontario appears on a show or program, they always mention Toronto. So I want to give Hamilton, Ontario, our props as well too.
All right. All
So
right. Well,
if you're heading to Buffalo, New York from Toronto, halfway through the journey, you're going to pass through Hamilton, Steel City. It's big in the news right now with all the tea talks.
uh-huh.
Um, but
All right.
I want to give Hamilton their props.
All right. So San Francisco to Hamilton,
There
Chris.
you go.
Absolutely. Hey, cheers. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time today, Chris.
My pleasure.
Take,
You take care. Bye bye.
thank you. Bye bye.